Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and even good morning, depending on where you're following us from across Africa. This is the PROCMURA podcast, and I'm your host, Sam Aboya. And as usual, we are coming to you from the PROCMURA Media Center here in Nairobi, Kenya. And in today's episode, we are very lucky, honored, and actually privileged to have our good friends in the studio. On my right, we have our good Sheikh, and on my left, you have
Dr. Stephen Kalunyi.
Exactly. Even before we get into today's conversation, because we're going to have an interesting, interesting conversation, I should say, I will allow them to introduce themselves and actually tell us what brings them to Nairobi, because I understand they come from the other side of the country. Sheikh.
Thank you very much. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are watching from. My name is Sheikh Ahmed Said. We traveled from Isiolo all the way to Nairobi, almost 350 kilometers with Professor Kalunyi to attend a very important gathering of the Interreligious Council of Kenya, which hosted 5 counties who are undertaking a project called Usawa program that is actually trying to minimize or even eliminate corruption, abuse, waste in our health sectors. We are collaborating with our health sectors to address those serious issues because, as you know, many Kenyans depend on our health sectors, but as a result of serious problems arising from abuse, wastage, and corruption, majority of our people whose health have been affected. They don't get the right treatment in time, and also might be the right advices. So you can see once health is affected, even the economy is seriously affected. And that's the reason why we met, to also evaluate a research that was done in these 5 counties. And I'm very happy we deliberated on it seriously, and that is an ongoing project.
Okay. Let me allow me to cut you short there and allow our good bishop to also introduce himself.
Yes.
Welcome, Bishop, to our studio. You've never been here before. I think it's your first time.
It is my first time.
Karibu sana, as we say in Kenya.
This studio,
yeah.
not in the building.
No, not even in PROCMURA, in this particular PROCMURA Center, PROCMURA Media Center.
Bishop Dr. Ambassador Stephen Kalunyi. I'm an associate bishop with the NICA, in charge of mentioned houses. I'm also the secretary of Isiolo Interfaith Network, which is shared by our able Ahmed Abdiset. Yeah, we were here for interreligious meeting that was looking into fraud, waste, and abuse in the Ministry of Health. That brought together partners, researchers, different stakeholders of that space to discuss how best we can minimize fraud, waste, and abuse.
Okay, thank you. The moment I see you two, what actually comes to mind, the first thing that comes to my mind is the issue of freedom of religion or belief, because of the amount of work that you've done in Isiolo County, courtesy of the network that you lead, the two of you lead. And recently, there was a proposal to regulate religious communities, but I understand it was withdrawn. But you as senior clergy, I would really want to get your reaction, because this matter borders the freedom of religion or belief. If we can start with you, Sheikh.
Thank you very much. As I said, I'm the chairman of the Interfaith Network in Isiolo. It's not our first time to interact with PROCMURA. We have worked jointly in area of countering violent extremism, area of GBV, Bengal Chai, and so many other things, which I'm happy we have really worked out jointly some programs which have been very successful. On the issue of the freedom of worship, it is enshrined in our religious theologies, and because of what happened in the country. Of course, you have heard what happened in Shakola. The government appointed a committee which undertook some studies, and their recommendation was all religious institutions should be regulated by the government ministry. But the outcome is we rejected outwardly the recommendation, and we recommended that all religious institutions should be regulated by religious bodies. The reason why we rejected the government proposal is if religious institution will be audited by the government, regulated by the government, it means that the government is forcing them to not to correct the government whenever the government goes wrong. And if that happens, then we'll be silenced. And you know, as religious people, we are the sheepherds of the people. We are the voice of the voiceless. We are the voice of the poor people. So by the government undertaking the entire process, it means that they will swing us the way they want, which we rejected. But there is a need to regulate religious bodies, to wipe out the rogue ones through the religious establishment themselves, and that one, it will work in a better way, in a better understanding, and it will not affect the freedom of worship of our people.
Bishop, even as you give us your comment on the very same issue, which the proposal which was withdrawn, but of course your religious leader had a lot of input to it, because it really borders the issue of freedom of religion or belief, or freedom of worship, which is a right that is enshrined in our constitution. Even as you give us your reaction to that, also help us paint the state of the freedom of religion in Kenya, and particularly in the areas that you come from.
I have come from Isiolo County, which has a diversity of cultural and religious communities, and our relationship with the Muslim has helped us understand that peace is possible even in a diverse community. Peace is possible even in a religious and multicultural community like Isiolo. We have continued to shine, each of our faiths, to shine on peace building and relationship building and coexistence, peaceful coexistence between our two major religions in Isiolo County. On the issue of regulation of churches, I would say that there are various views from different religious communities, but on my part, I would say that regulation promotes accountability and transparency. Because we need people to be accountable. We need people to be transparent. We want people to tell us, what do they do when they collect offerings? Do they end up to become an enterprise of an individual? Or do those churches belong to members and that they are governed by trustees on behalf of the churches? We need to know that. Secondly, regulation also sets the standards. We are able to control people from becoming extremists, so that you have moral and ethical leadership. Who are these people who are ministering to our children? What knowledge do they have? What kind of messages are they passing to our children? So it's important for ethical leadership. And the other point is why I would like regulation is to ensure that we control exploitation of our people from people who purport to be religious and could be not necessarily there for the good of our people. So what I would say is I agree with my senior that there's a need for self-regulation, because otherwise if we allow the government also to regulate, we fear that also the government is likely going to micromanage the affairs of faith. You know, faith is it's about our relationship with God. It's horizontal and it's also vertical. The government may not understand, may not be able to put the boundaries between what is public policy and what is of faith, what is religious. So there's need to draw the boundaries and come up with a self-regulating mechanism that allows religious institutions to be the ones regulating themselves. We have organizations in this country that have done so well. A good example is PROCMURA, Program for Christian-Muslim Relations in Africa. We have other organizations like Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. We have SUPKEM, we have NAMLEP, we have OAIC, we have EAK, we have NCCK. All these organizations are religious coordinating, SDS, the Conference of Catholic Bishops. All these organizations can come up with an interreligious organization that should be entrusted with the role of ensuring that people meet the required criteria to qualify to be religious leaders in the country. Otherwise, if we let it go the way it is, there's a danger of people becoming radicalized, people becoming extremism, and then we get our country into a situation like we got in Chakahola.
A quick follow-up to that, Bishop. You mentioned Shakahola.
Yes.
And it was a very bad situation that we found ourselves in as a country. And I think it borders a lot on what you've just mentioned, the issue of radicalization and kind of religious extremism. Then how do we strike a balance so that we don't get there as a country again, but at the same time we don't micromanage religious communities? How do we strike that balance?
The balance would be, we have a kind of an oversight board or body that oversees the registration and ensures that whoever is registered and operates within the borders of Kenya meets the basic requirements of ethical and doctrinal standards, so that we don't get rogue clergy who may end up becoming extremists and lose lives of our people.
Sheikh, there is the same issue of trying to have that balance where religious leaders are allowed their freedom, or not actually even religious leaders, but religious communities are allowed their freedom of worship and freedom of religion as enshrined in our constitution. But at the same time, there is the issue of some of these, I would call them rogue religious leaders, if quote-unquote religious leaders, who mislead the people, and we find ourselves in not so good grounds. Maybe how do we strike that balance, adding to what Bishop has mentioned?
I agree with Bishop, concur with him, that, for example, the Muslims, we have quite a number of organizations. They should be regulated. Some of them are registered with the associations. The association, what we call registrar of associations. As associations, some of them NGOs. But for the mosques, there should be actually, and other Islamic faith organizations should be regulated by the establishment within the Muslim. The Christian also the same, to check and balances and to avoid extremisms, because it is on both sides. This is very important because of what we saw in Shakahola, in other parts of this country, to avoid what we have witnessed as a country. Even for Shakahola, still investigation is ongoing. Until the investigation is completed and the outcome of the courts are known, we cannot comment on it.
That's true.
We don't know what has happened actually. But seriously speaking, whatever that has been documented by the committee should be undertaken by the religious bodies themselves.
More addition
Yeah, you can.
is that if we allow too much of government regulation into churches, it will infringe into freedom of worship. Naturally, it will be politicized and it will get to a place where the church is no longer able to do internal freedom of worship and freedom of regulation. Yeah.
That would be the case to any other religious communities across the country. Now, as we wind this up, because I understand you're running late a bit, maybe what are some of the challenges that you face as religious leaders, as especially when you're advocating for religious, or I mean freedom of religion and belief?
It's very clear in our holy books that first of all, there is no force in religion. People should have their freedom of worship with some limits within the religious entities. But the challenges are there we are facing is there are very many people who don't understand proper theology on theological teachings, whether it is Islamic or Christianity. Then there are those traditionalists. Then there are those who fear that whatever we are doing might interfere with their way of earning.
That's true.
So there are quite a number of challenges, but I'm happy through our practical activities on the ground, with interfaith networks all over the country, people have understood now. The purpose of the religion is to bring people of different faith, culture, background together for peaceful coexistence.
That's true.
And that is enshrined in our holy books, that we must love each other, that we must help each other, we must love love your neighbors as you love others. And even in the Quran, it is stated that if you destroy one life, you have to destroy the humanity. If you save one life, you have saved humanity. This is where the situation is. Always in every good entity, there are challenges. You don't miss challenges. But challenges will be overcome.
Sure.
With education, cooperation, doing things together. End of the day, I am a Muslim, I'll go to the mosque. He's a Christian, I respect his way of worship.
Yeah. Say that again.
Lakum dinukum waliyadin. You go to your church, I go to my mosque. Yes.
What Sheikh is telling me, or what I'm hearing from what Sheikh is saying, is your right basically starts from where mine ends.
Yeah.
What is your message on that, even as a religious leader, and your call to other religious leaders?
I say that there should be no coercion into conversion. Share your faith in love. Let your actions speak for you, so that if people look at your actions and are attracted, if they want to join you, it's okay. There shouldn't be no coercion. There shouldn't be no hate speech. Let us appreciate diversity, appreciate that we are different, appreciate that there are so many key pillars that are similar between Christians and Muslims. For example, all Christians and Muslims, all of them have religious books. All of them believe in the Day of Judgment. All of them value the messages by the prophets. Both Christians and Muslims speak about morality, good morals. If we major on those things that unite us, we'll be able to peacefully coexist instead of looking at our differences.
Okay, thank you.
What Bishop is saying, we should build on our similarities.
Yeah, great.
Okay? And the differences, that is 20%, as I said, lakum dinukum waliyadin. But at the same time, we are in a country with diverse culture, different religious entities. Let everyone respect the other. And the Constitution is very clear, the preamble. Despite our cultural, religious differences, we have to be proud of becoming Kenyans for peaceful coexistence. And let's be model in honesty, in love, in taking care of our people, in cooperating, in complementing each other, in facilities. So this way, we will bring up a generation that understand their religion well, but also respect others.
Yeah, we are the only two religions that have a monotheistic belief. We have one God. There are so many good similarities. But on the issue of regulation, a majority of churches, if I may speak for Christians, a majority of Christians are advocating for self-regulation. They want to regulate themselves rather than instead of being regulated by the government.
Sheikh, for joining us.
Nice.
Thank you, Bishop, for joining us. And until next time, I've been your host, Sam Abuya. We've been coming to you from the PROCMURA Media Center, and keep this conversation going through our social media platforms. On Facebook, you will find us at the Program for Christian-Muslim Relations in Africa. On YouTube, you will find us at PROCMURA Prica, and on Twitter, we are at PROCMURA_Prica. And until next time, God bless you, God bless Africa.